So today we're going to be checking out a new series by Shonen Jump. This is Dear Anemone by Ren Matsui, and it is a new series. Just came out February 18th, so a couple days ago at the time of this recording. Crazy first issue. It basically reminds me of Hell's Paradise meets Ajin. And yeah, the basic premise: when Gaku lands on the Galapagos Islands, paradise is the last thing he'll be experiencing. With creatures undergoing horrific evolutions, only one rule still stands: the survival of the fittest. So yeah, we start off with the Big Bang and like a bunch of creatures and evolution and stuff like that. Evolution and Darwinism plays a huge part in this series. That's like the main theme of this series. We have a soldier going through the Galapagos Islands, and he comes across this weird creature that attacks him. And just before his camera goes out, we see like footage of just weird creatures. It's like creatures that exist in our world, but almost like they mix together to form new hideous creatures. And that's when we cut to a year later. We're on the Pacific Ocean on the ship, and we see our main characters. So our protagonist is Gaku. He's 18, and he is a useless coward. In fact, the first time we see him, he's throwing up, and he's basically whining and complaining about how useless he is. I will say right from the get-go, not a huge fan of this character, but I kind of get that that's what the series is setting up. So the series is going to be setting up, this is my guess, but we're going to be setting up Gaku as this like weak coward who feels like he's useless, and then over the course of the story, he's going to become more and more courageous. That's my guess. But yeah, right now we're basically him at his low point. And yeah, I don't really feel anything for this kid right now. Hopefully that changes. But another character comes up and introduces themselves. This is Ryuichi. And Ryuichi just kind of talks about how everybody's here for this island. Everyone believes that this is going to be like a crazy summer adventure. That's when this old guy starts talking to them about the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands are real islands. Basically, they were created by volcanoes. They aren't from like landmass, and then the sea levels like rised and be formed into islands. It was basically there was nothing there. Underground volcanoes erupted. Eventually, the lava cooled off, formed land, and that's how we got these islands, which is very much kind of like the Azores in the Atlantic. So it would be kind of cool to see some manga take place on the Azores. But yeah, the Galapagos Islands. The old man kind of explains that on this island, creatures like animals have either like washed up due to the tide or by like, crazy winds carry them over. And because of that, the animals on this island were like forced to evolve and adapt. And Charles Darwin like saw all this, and that's where he came up with his Darwinism theory of survival of the fittest, and how the creature is not like the strongest, the fastest, the smartest, or whatever. It's the one that's most able to survive is the one that's most able to adapt to their surroundings. So yeah, that's basically just kind of like the brief intro that we get for this island. And then that's when this old lady shows up and she explains what the actual goal is. She explains that on the Galapagos Islands 3 years ago, there was an explosion. Like the temperature shot up and some virus was released, like a virus that no one has ever seen before. And after that, everyone lost contact with the island. And a year ago, Japanese sent in an army to figure out what went down, and everyone went missing. And so now these kids, I say kids, but they're like 18 at the youngest. Most of them seem to be in their early 20s. Their mission is to try to find any of the missing soldiers. And then we later find out in this chapter that that's not actually the case. It's not them trying to find the soldiers, but that's the old lady is lying. She actually sent them to basically see if evolution will affect humankind. Yeah, everyone is there for a reason. Everyone is showing up on the island for a reason. They all participated. Most of them is because of money. Because this mission is dangerous, they're all going to be paid a lot of money. Gaku is the only one that's not doing it for money. So like as they're on the island, they like split off into different groups. So Gaku's group is Gaku, Ryuichi, Asumi, who's this 19-year-old, and Hairu, who's 23 years old. And they're all explaining that they're just there for the cash. Or at least Ryuichi and Asumi are saying it's for the cash. Hairu doesn't say anything. She never explains why she's there. And Gaku explains that the reason he's there is because he wants to change. And that's when a soldier appears right behind him. And the soldier turns out to actually be a creature. It's actually a chameleon. And this giant chameleon can not only change its colors, but now it can actually transform into other humans. So that's how like some of these creatures have evolved. And yeah, the chameleon basically uses its tongue to rip off the head of Ryuichi. So yeah, Ryuichi is brutally killed right in the beginning, chapter one. And it's kind of funny because like it was set up that Ryuichi's gonna be like Gaku's friend throughout this adventure, but no, he's the first one killed. And that's when like just crap goes down. This creature is eating Ryuichi. Asumi like starts freaking out and she hears a voice yelling like, "Hey, is there anyone over there? I'm from the first task force. Like, hurry up, get over here or he'll eat you." So Asumi like rushes towards the voice, and it turns out that the voice is actually another creature that's mimicking humans to lure them in so that it can attack them. And so this creature starts attacking Asumi. And God, the visuals on this are just so freaking good. Like the artwork is amazing. And the creatures just look so weird. Like they're creepy, but not, I don't want to say like in a horrifying way, but just like in this weird, uncanny valley kind of way. It's awesome. But as Gaku just witnesses his new friend be brutally murdered, and as he's witnessing Asumi being attacked, he has a flashback. And in the flashback, he's trying to protect this flower, which is a anemone. And anemone is an actual flower in real world. I don't know like what the significance is for this story. Anemones have like different meanings depending on the culture and stuff. So like in Greek mythology, an anemone was created when Aphrodite's lover Adonis was killed, and Aphrodite like cries over her lover, and the tears drop onto his blood, and the mix of the tears and blood creates a flower, and that flower is the anemone. In Europe, basically anemones were used to ward off diseases and bad luck. And in other cultures, like mostly in Asia, anemones are a sign of illness and basically bad luck. So depending on what culture, it all means different things. So what exactly it means here, I don't know. I guess I mean in Japan, the symbolism behind anemones is ill tidings. So I don't know if that's what they're going for, or if it's going to mean something else. But yeah, he's trying to protect the anemone, and a bunch of bullies just start like beating him up. And eventually, this one other kid gets in front of the way and tries to protect Gaku and ends up taking the beatings for him. And Gaku starts talking to this kid, and the kid says that he is going to join like the police force. And he basically is kind of just talking to Gaku. Gaku's like saying how he's a coward, how he's never going to change, how he's like a weakling and stuff. And that's when the kid basically explains, look at this flower. Why do you think flowers are pretty? Like no matter how many times they get stepped on, the flowers remain strong and persistent. And like he reveals like the flowers that the bullies have stepped on is back into its regular self. It's like standing up. It's not being down or anything. It looks beautiful. And he explains that the reason they're beautiful is because they're proud to bloom in their bright colors despite it all. Like for all the times you were stepped on, you know how others in your shoes have felt. You understand the fear that they feel. And that people like that are bound to grow stronger. So you're going to change. And yeah, it turns out that this kid is one of the soldiers that disappeared on the island. So while Gaku is showing up on this island to change, he's also showing up on this island to try to save his friend. And the change is that he is going to not be useless anymore in the sense that he's going to be useful by saving his friend. He's going to be courageous by going onto this crazy island and saving his friend. So that's the change. So after he has that flashback, he sees Asumi about to be attacked by this creature. And so he grabs a gun and starts charging at the creature, preparing to shoot it. When the creature instead turns its attention to Gaku, lifts him up, and just starts choking the crap out of him to the point where like he starts squirting blood from his mouth and throat. And just under his feet, there happens to be an anemone. and his blood drips on the anemone. And that's when I say the Ajin inspiration comes in. As we see this flower start blooming, and it takes on the form of this flower woman. And that's how it ends. So it almost feels like Gaku kind of summoned his own Ajin in the form of this flower lady. But yeah, like I said, it basically it reminds me of Hell's Paradise with Ajin. I guess you can throw in a little bit of Wild Strawberry, but yeah, a lot of Hell's Paradise inspiration. I will say that I feel like this series it's not as interesting as Hell's Paradise. And I say that because I liked the universe and lore better in Hell's Paradise, and I liked the main character more. Like the main character was just, I mean, he's this badass ninja. And the whole thing with Hell's Paradise is that it feels kind of like Predator in the sense that you have like all these badass outlaws and thugs and samurais and ninjas going on this island only to realize that they're not the top of the food chain anymore. There's actually creatures there way, way, way worse than these villains, than these characters. Meanwhile, here we have like, I say teenagers, but it's basically like 18 to 24-year-olds. So it feels more kind of like a slasher horror movie. So you have like these weak characters showing up on this island where there are these monstrous creatures. I don't know. It just, there's a huge difference there. Like, I like the fact of we're going to take this badass character and we're going to show that there's something even way, way more badass and worse than him. Like, that's kind of cool. As opposed to, we're going to take this weak character who calls himself useless and we're going to throw him on this island with deadly creatures. Like, oh, okay. I don't know. It just feels kind of like your regular horror slasher kind of thing. Also, I'm not really too big a fan of them explaining everything right from the get-go. I mean, the Galapagos Islands is a real island, so obviously they're explaining the history of that. But I don't like the fact that they're explaining like, oh, there was an explosion and then a virus was released, and then the virus forced the animals to have to evolve. And because of that, they evolved into these weird creatures. Like, I don't like the fact that they explained everything to us right in the beginning. The thing that I liked about Hell's Paradise is that you have no idea what the hell's going on in this island at first. All these people are told is that, hey, there's this really dangerous island, but there's rumors that the fountain of youth is there, and that whoever drinks from this elixir, like this fountain of youth, will be able to live forever. So I'm going to send you all there to try to find this thing, and whoever gets it and brings it back to me will have all their charges dropped, and you're a free man. So then when they arrive at the island and they realize that all these crazy things are going down, no one has any idea what the hell's happening. And over the course of the story, you as a reader start piecing together what's going on, where do these creatures come from, what's the history behind this island and stuff. And the whole mystery of that is like one of the cool things that kind of held me on to the story, outside of just like the cool artwork and action scenes and stuff like that. But it was trying to figure out this mystery. Meanwhile, it's like we kind of have everything explained. Yeah, there was this explosion which released this virus, and the virus turned all the animals into these weird creatures because they were forced to evolve. There you go. I don't know. I don't necessarily want to blame the writer because I feel like the way current Shonen Jump is, where things get the axe really, really quickly, you kind of have to throw everything you got right in the beginning. You can't really string along the readers anymore because if you do, if you don't hook them immediately, then chances of your series surviving are very, very low. But at the same time, when you know everything right from the beginning, kind of like, oh, okay. Like, so the mystery of this island is just kind of gone. And also, I think it probably would have been a lot cooler if you didn't use an actual island. If you created your own island. And then that way you can come up with your own history and mystery and things like that. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, I'm basing all this off the first chapter, so things can completely change. The writer can pull something and completely redeem that nitpick that I have. And it is a nitpick. Overall, I thought this was a really cool chapter. I'm very, very interested in this series. I think this first chapter was awesome. I do have my faults with it, which I just explained, as well as the character of Gaku, which I also explained earlier. I don't really care too much for him right now. I get that that's what his whole arc is that he starts off as a weakling, but then he's going to get better and become more courageous as the story goes along. I'm just not as interested in him as I was in Gabimaru from Hell's Paradise. So it kind of feels like this is basically Hell's Paradise, but it's not starting as great as Hell's Paradise started. So this feels like a weaker version of Hell's Paradise. Not necessarily the Wish.com version of Hell's Paradise, but almost there. So hopefully that changes. Hopefully things like really pick up and we get some crazy, cool, unique things. But with that said, I know it sounds like I'm kind of crapping on this series. I really do like this first chapter. Just I have my nitpicks for it, but overall, I think this is awesome. I'm definitely going to be checking it out. I do recommend reading it. At least it starts off with a banger chapter. Hopefully, it continues to be awesome. But yeah, there's Dear Anemone. I liked it a lot. Again, I got my faults, which I already went over, but those faults aren't enough for me to not recommend this. This is awesome. I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can read it for yourself. But I hope you enjoy it and hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.